How are we? How's it going? How are you? I was a couple of minutes late there. I had to set up my phone and all that type of stuff. How are we all? Let's get Nicole in here. How's it going? Someone comes on, just light me up, let me know that you can see me. And as you can hear me on this Wednesday evening, so strange to be on in the middle of the week, but I feel with the impending lockdowns that are happening across Europe, oh, you can hear me fab. Fabadoozy. How are we all? Hi Terry, how are you? Good to see you. Welcome to these bite-sized lives where I'm going to talk about a few basic fundamental things that we need to. Hi, I'll give everybody a few minutes to come on. I'll grab a quick drink. Here we go. How are we all? How's everybody getting on? Tell me how you're getting on today. Who's still open, who's still closed? I believe France is going to announce a lockdown tonight. Germany, a partial one. Italy. So things in Europe are a little bit tight at the moment. A little bit tight. You know, that kind of thing. Rebecca, if you're sending me a message, am I on live? It just comes up that yeah, you're sending me a message when I'm on live. Ribena, no, it's actually Diet Club Orange, which I'm hugely addicted to. What's in the flask tonight? It's Diet Club Orange. What a great question. Diet Club Orange, which is yum. I don't know if you have this in your country. How are you getting on in lockdown? It's a bit strange. Open in Nottingham. Yeah, it's a bit strange. It's a bit of a strange. Yeah, France are shooting. Germany, Italy. I have a feeling across Europe that there might be, highest Sandy, there might be you know, some stronger initiatives put in place to try and save Christmas, I would say. You know, they want as many restaurants and as many salons and as many places open at Christmas as they possibly can have. If there's a bit of noise, is that a code for vodka? No, I don't. I only really have a drink once a week, you know what I mean? And when I do, sorry if I cut off there. There was just a little bit of a signal issue there. Still open in the UK, okay. That's a good thing. So every day you're open is a good thing, you know. And whatever happens, we'll be here for you 150%. Plus, there's a good few lives on Instagram over the next couple of nights and couple of days that are done with Wella, and some Zoom calls that would have been quite expensive to do that they're going to put on for free. So I'll be posting all them over the next couple of weeks. Actually, now that you're mentioning booze, hiya Paula, how are you? Now that you're mentioning booze, we are here for you to. Thank you, Anita. Thank you all for being here tonight. I'd like to thank the Wella UK company. Wella UK sent me this today for judging the Trend Vision. So I'll have this at the weekend. Thank you, Wella UK. Just in case you thought I didn't get it because I was at home, I did actually get it. It was at home. So thank you so much, Wella UK, and it was an absolute pleasure to judge. I judged Romanian last week. We've seen a lot of the Romanian on, and then there's been a few cancellations. I think the Nordic ones had to cancel. They're back in lockdown as well, you know. So good evening. We have restrictions tomorrow. Pubs, bars close in Malta. Yes, things are tightening a little bit across Europe, you know what I mean. What across Europe, there's plenty on. Is there plenty on now? Hi, yes, Susie. I wouldn't be a huge hi Fiona. I wouldn't be a huge champagne person, you know what I mean. But I can drink it. You know, I can drink it if I have to. You know what I mean? I'm very well, Claire. Thanks for asking. What would we do without you? Yeah, what would you do without me? This is. What would I do without you guys, huh? Because it works there. Hi, Abby. How are you? Good to see you. It works both ways, guys. You know, it works both ways. It's great to see all. It's great. What makes the whole thing work is the co-creation. Is having everybody here. I'm hanging in fine, actually. I'm hanging in fine, you know. If it's wet, Susie, that's right. If it's wet and it wets my whistle, I'll find a way to get it down the throat. You know what I mean? I'll find a way. What's good to mix with champagne, guys? What makes it like a little bit less acidic? Do you know what I mean? Because the orange juice makes it more acidic, and I get heartburn from it. So, a few recommendations of things that I can mix with champagne that won't give me heartburn, okay? I'd be very, very interested. So these are going to be a few bite-sized lives that we're going to deal with a few different, just basic issues. And a strawberry, see, I don't know if that'll be enough for me. You know, I don't know if that'll be enough for me. Rhubarb, I'm not sure. Rhubarb, I'm not sure. Peach nectar. Oh, Patricia, that sounds. What's camembert? I don't know that. A bit of chassé or camembert. God, you guys are having a clue what any of those things are. You know what I mean? And a little bit of lemonade. I having a clue. Wicked Blue from Vicky's hardcore. Vicky's hardcore. Just drink it, says Michelle. Just drink it. Yeah, it's just drink it. Hiya, Hag. How are you? I'm in great form. Peach Snaps, Maria. I like the sound of peach snaps. Heavy cream. Oh, I'm trying to control my belly, Amber. And it's real battle. It's a real battle. Hiya, Richard. How are you? Take one for the team. Yeah, I've taken many for the team over the years. You know that by Michelle. I wouldn't have been going backwards with that. You know what I mean? You've got a cream coffee and a double decker in bed. Oh, Lisa, that sounds absolutely amazing. Edinburgh raspberry gin. I used to date a girl who was big into gin, and she sort of put me off gin for life, you know. But maybe I'd give that a go. I'd love a champagne sangria. How do you make a champagne sangria? Or can somebody make it with me? Makes a nice cocktail if you mix it with Wicked. Vicky, I love the sound of that. I'd say you and me be having the waffles. Imagine we on the Wickeds. Oh, on the Wickeds with the champagne. We'd be fighting over there'd be no oxygen left in the house. You know, there'd be just no oxygen left in the house. Good few people on. Still coming on. I'll give them a few more seconds to get them on. And get herself in here. There she is. There's Nicole. There, put her back here. She had a good bit of action over the weekend, didn't you, sweetheart? A good bit of action over the weekend. Gin smells like regrets now. Yeah. Listen. If I told you, I'd have to kill you. Do you know what I mean? If I told you, I'd have to. It's confession box stuff. I have to see you on when you're clearing. It's lovely to be on, Catherine. It's lovely to keep you guys company. And whatever happens, we will be here for you. Okay? Can't be the snowball though. Oh, a snowball, Vicky. Vicky. We snowball sounds good. There's Nicole, your fella Hag's watching. Look, she wants it. Oh yeah, it's Hag on. Yeah, Hag's on. Okay, behave yourself. Okay, there, I'll comb your hair back. Yeah, she just heard Hag's on, and she's moving in there like it's a Patrick Swayze at the end of Dirty Dancing. You know when he comes on at the end of Dirty Dancing. Yeah, just all remember the end of Dirty Dancing when he got no one puts baby in the corner and they do the little dance when they're going up. Yeah, you know, I had to sit through that film quite a few times because I was dating at the time. You had to pretend that you liked it. Wasn't my favourite film the first time I saw it. It wasn't. By the fifth time, it wasn't my favourite video. But it was a great. How you doing, Lee? It was a great dating movie. It's a great dating movie. Dirty Dancing. It was a really great dating movie. Okay, to understand, like, if you want to be creative, okay, you know, if you want to be, people are saying, oh, I'm a creative hairdresser and I like to do this and I like to do that and I like to be, but you cannot be truly creative unless you understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, and then how you can push things and how they're going to work. And so you need to have that little sort of you have to have basic knowledge of formulation and of pigments and of tones and of understanding how it kind of works, you know, as best as you possibly can, and that will help you then be able to put together creative mixes that work with the underlying tones and the underlying pigments of the hair. So we're going to start on this journey today, just very, very slightly. And the thing to remember is, to get good at anything, you remember in the Karate Kid with Daniel and Mr. Miyagi, where he taught him to wash on and to wash off and to wash on and to wash off, and he just did that about 1,000,000 times, so that in the heat of battle he would be able. Sorry guys, I got cut off there. So in the heat of battle, he would be able to just do the moves that he'd been taught because he practiced them so much. So it's very important that you know, that you really know your stuff and practice your stuff and learn your stuff, so that when you're behind the chair and a client asks you a question, that you kind of have the answer for it, or you can talk to them authentically about how things work. And by you knowing what you're doing, they will know what they're doing. And when they know, they will know that you know what they're doing, and they're more likely understand the science of hair colour. From High Chesney, they'll understand the science of hair colour from listening to you, because you will understand it, and they'll accept the rules of colour. You know, they'll really accept the rules of colour if you can accept the rules of colour and understand it. They're more likely to go with you. And if they don't, and they're looking for the holy grail and something a bit crazy, and they move on, well, that's okay, because you'll know that nobody down the road has different, that the science isn't different in a different salon than it is for you. That the science is the science across the board, okay? It's just the science, and you don't have to take it so personal, but it's kind of important to know the basic science, okay? So it's really, really important to understand your basics and your fundamentals. And like Daniel's son with Mr. Miyagi, you have to practice the wash on and the wash off. And what that means is you have to do a lot of thin tints to get good at tinting, to understand that fine hair sometimes is resistant, that the hair can have a lot of different products on it, what actual depth it is, what the actual tone, what you need. All these things, rose lime, all these things come into play, you know, but you need to practice a lot. You need to have a lot of experience. And even at that, you'll get days where it will battle and it will fight with you. And there could be, how you doing, Lee? Thank you for that. Thank you for that. My gorgeous man. I'll take that from you, Lee. I'll take that from you. Dom will be jealous. Lee and myself, we watched a wonderful hair show with Dominic Chappelle on the How to Cut a community on a Monday night, which I'd highly recommend. It's a great show, and we love Dom. He's really, really good. You know, and it's really, really important to be aware of that. So when they're making a base colour, like the colours, there's 3 primary colours in the world, okay? 3 primary colours. You have red, you have yellow, and you have blue. Okay, they're the 3 primary colours, and to make a base colour, they mix those 3 colours together and they neutralise each other, which then creates a brown. So a base colour is made up of red, yellow and blue. The lighter base colours would have more yellow in them, and the darker base colours would have more blue in them. Yeah? Everybody get that? So base colours are made up of red, yellow and blue, and when you mix them together, they neutralise each other out, and that creates a muddy type colour, which we would see as a brown. We would see as a brown. Okay, does everybody get that? Because sometimes that's something that simple. When you understand how you make a brown, it sort of makes sense about how it reacts on the hair and on different types of hair, and how certain parts of that pigment get mixed up, say with an underlying pigment where the blue might go into it and you might be left with a higher level of yellow or red, or the red might go in because it's an ashier colour and you might be left with a higher level of sort of yellow and blue, which can give you a little bit of a green. You know, so you start to understand why colours can. Hiya, good evening, Liz. You start to understand just basically why things happen. You know, that it isn't really because colour doesn't like you, or it isn't that there's usually quite a simple reason for why these things are. So that is a really basic understanding that's so important, that you mix a red, you mix a yellow, and you mix a blue, and when you mix those 3 together, you get a basic shade, okay? A basic shade. So if one of those 3 colours happens to be absorbed into hair that isn't 100% white and maybe has darker parts in it, well then obviously the blue is probably going to go in and try and neutralise the underlying pigment and leave you with a redder result, which we would see as brassiness. Yes, hi Michelle, how are you? I know you were working. You can watch this back if you're just jumping on now. You can watch it back. So that's how you create a brown, that the 3 colours neutralise each other. Yeah, you know, That's really, 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 really important to understand that that's what a basic colour is made up of. One more time. Hi, Liquor. Hi. Yeah, it's funny, I have thought colour hasn't liked me. There has been days, Nita, where I felt colour hasn't liked me, or I haven't chose the right depth, or I haven't chose the right tone, and I'm halfway through a tint and I've said to myself, this isn't dark enough, you know. There isn't enough pigment in this to go into the hair, or the depth I've chosen isn't the right depth. You know, you say to yourself it's a 7 and it's actually a 6, or you like to, we all do that, okay? Do we all do that? And that goes back to the sort of Mr. Miyagi, wash on, wash off. The more you do it, the more less likely you are, you know, for it to not happen to you, and the more likely to say to a client, well, we need to keep it at this level of depth or it won't cover really well, because you need to have that level of pigment in your hair. So remember, the darker bases have a deeper, so they have a bit more blue in them, and then the lighter ones have a little bit more yellow in them. So it stands to reason that the lighter you go, the less it's going to neutralize. You understand? Like, the less it's going to neutralize. So we've all been there, okay? We've all been there. It isn't something to be embarrassed about. We all make these mistakes. You know what I mean? We all. So, you know, they're the primary colours. You know, so there's no really overall dominating colour there. Obviously blue is the bully because it's the heaviest pigment, but that's the overall pigment. So does everybody sort of get that to make a base shade, you're using the 3 primary colours mixed together. Okay, the 3 primary colours mixed together, which neutralise each other out and create a brown. It's not what they neutralise on the hair, okay, it's what they neutralise each other out to create a brown. So what happens when you put them on the hair, obviously, is gonna affect the result that you have. That's why they're called a depth. You know, that's why they're called a depth, and they're used as to be mixed with a tone, with a pigment that you're trying to create, a color that you're trying to create. So that's a depth, which is a mixture of basically red, yellow, and blue. And then you can mix that with a tone, an actual pigment, okay? An actual pigment, which could be like a blue or a red or a yellow. So the basis is 3 primary colours together to create a brown, okay? Does that help? I hope that helps. That helps me a lot. Sometimes when I get certain results and I go, oh, the roots are glowing a bit. Well, I know that the blue's gone in. It must have been an underlying pigment, and I'm left with a glow. That you know that there isn't enough pigment. You know, do you know the reasons why sometimes things don't take it? There's not enough depth, or it's at the level it's at. They're all small little things, but the more you do them, the more you learn, the better it is. Is this helping? Hands up, people who've got that, you know, so far. Is that good so far? You know, to remember that, like when you look particularly on the Wella, you know, when you look particularly on the Wella chart, that is stroke 1 ash. Yeah, it's listen, Lucy, I was looking through this the other morning. I was just sitting downstairs and I thought, this is brilliant, because you actually forget what the primary colours are. You forget what the primary colours are, and you forget how you make a base, and what a base is, and why it's there, and what's inside a tube of base, and why you need to add a tone to it to create the colour that you're looking for, because there's not going to be enough in that. You know, you're either going to be left with a more red result, or a more yellow result, or a more cool result. You know, this is kind of correct, isn't it? You know, so you do then need to overlay whatever colour you actually want it to be, and that's why there's all these shades of colour. That's why there's like 3,000 shades of colour in a shade chart. You know, you do. It's like fractions of skill. It's just important to go back, you know, to that type of look. So again, when you're looking at an ash is not. Our Wella's more green based. I wouldn't say so. No, I wouldn't say so. I'd say the old Wella KP was probably more green based, but I do find that if that a little bit of green in with a base colour can cool it out really well. So if we looked at the new, say, 7702, so that would be made up of yellow, red, yeah, blue, and then it would have a hint of green in it. Now you know that's a secondary tone, and that they made the green with the yellow and the blue. So that would tip the scales towards a little bit more cooler, which will cool out the tone, of the hair. It would just cool it out a little bit. You will often see in yellow colours when they're made like a really pure, there's very few pure yellows and pure golds, there's very few pure yellows and golds, and they will always offset sometimes a yellow with a little bit of green to make it less fluorescent. You will see this in hair colours. They do this all the time. And that's why sometimes when you look at golds, great question, by the way, whoever asked, was it you, Mary? Great question. That's why sometimes you can see a little bit of a greeny cast on some of the yellow tones. That's just because they're trying to neutralise the really strong yellowness of it, because yellow colour is a primary colour. It's a primary colour. So the primary colours are red, yellow and blue. And you make all the other colours off the back of that colour, but the three of them together will make a base colour. Okay, so that's what a base colour is. It's the three colours together. And ash is another category, not a colour. So an ash colour can be made up of green, can be made up of blue, and can be made up of violet. Okay, so those three colours, again, in different levels, can be mixed, which does, leave it behind, Tracy. You're here now, and you're teaching. If I told you what I went through in school, I was chronically dyslexic. I used to have to sit down the back of the class, and I felt I was really smart in school, and I just couldn't put it down on paper. I didn't get a chance to put it down on paper. I used to cheat in exams. It used to be, school was horrific for me, but I don't give it any thought. Okay, I'll go, they didn't teach me this, that, then. I'm here now in front of you guys, and that's all that matters. So, forget about it, as they say. Forget about it. Just forget about it. You're here now, and you're just moving on. And these colleges and these, like I was a ghost in school, a flipping ghost. You know what I mean? It was called good at sports in my day. It was called good in sports, and when I discovered I was dyslexic, I went for an eye test. I didn't even get through. There wasn't even a test. My two kids are both gonna have they're both gonna be dyslexic. I don't know what level, obviously, because I'm their dad. Do you know what I mean? So it's spotted really young age. My 7 and 8-year-old, did well and make my jumper. Now this is isn't this a beaut, isn't it? Yeah, it's a beautiful jumper. It's a beautiful jumper. But it would be 744, wouldn't it? Or would it? No, it's probably a bit lighter. Would it be 844? What would be the depth of my jumper, guys? What would be the depth of my jumper? What would be the depth? So we know that the tone is a 4/4, because there's a great question, Alice. We know that the tone is a 4/4, so we can see that it's a red. It doesn't have any yellow in it. So if you want to make a red, this is a great question. If you want to make a red lighter, okay, because red is a primary colour, it's a primary tone. So if you wanted to make a red lighter, what would you use to make a red lighter? Okay, so you'd need to use a primary or a secondary colour. So if you wanted to make a red lighter, you'd add in some yellow, wouldn't you? You'd add in some yellow, yeah? Or you'd add in some orange, wouldn't you? Okay, so you'd add in some red and you'd add in some orange, yeah? So if you wanted to make it, so a little bit of yellow would make this lighter, which would give it a copper feel. Well, there you are, Michelle. There you are. Knocking out the work, Michelle. Don't think I don't know us, babes. Don't think I don't know us. You're doing fantastic. I'm so proud of so many of you trying techniques and improving your work. It's such a beautiful feeling to become a creator behind the chair and to be creative and to become a creator. And the way you do that is true education. It's true understanding. It's true face shapes and bone structure and skin tone and eye colour and understanding. And it's not that difficult. But you really have to do it. A3 to keep the red bright. See now, Lindsay, I love it. Okay, so Lindsay's going for the yellow, I think. So both colours, and yellow being a primary colour, would obviously work better, wouldn't it? Because it's an actual primary colour. So we're back to the three primary colours again. You know, the three primary colours, which are red, yellow and blue. So if we wanted to make my red jumper, okay, if we wanted to make my red jumper darker in tone, okay, what would be the best primary colour that I could, and I'm rubbing myself, see me rubbing my shoulder. It's the only part of me that hasn't got any fat. Look, once you get to here, I'm starting to shake. So 834 would be the primary tone, and that would be yellow, Anita. So that would be a yellow colour with a little bit of red. It wouldn't be a red colour with a little bit of you know, sorry, it wouldn't be a real red. It's a yellow with a little bit of red, not a red with a little bit of yellow. So yellow being the primary tone, that would kick out the light being a yellow. So there's a chance that you could get a root glow from an 834 more than you could from an 843. Okay, I love that answer. Blue. So blue. Okay, so blue would be the best primary colour, which would then make this a violet, wouldn't it? It would make this jumper a violet. And what would be the secondary colour that you could use? It would be a purple, wouldn't it? It would be a purple. Yeah, I'm thinking that 3 would lift the red brighter. You're absolutely right. If you want successful training, education is the absolute key. Blue. Yeah, blue. Absolutely blue. And then you could use secondary colours, couldn't you? So you could use a purple or you could use a violet. So if you were to put a red on grey hair, okay, red on grey hair without any gold in it, it would most likely go quite pink, wouldn't it? Because it would be a lighter red. Do you know what I mean? It would be, so red without gold is like a mauve or it's like a pink because it's a primary colour and it needs another primary colour or a secondary colour to change its tone. Yeah? You know, so these are really, you don't, without getting too heavy into it, okay? You know, these are, yes, Simone, deep purple, but even a violet will do it sometimes. You know what I mean? A violet, that's why we love a violet, and that's why we love 6-5, Adeline, and so when you think about the sixes and you think about it, so remember that like one is a category, it's not a pigment. Okay, one is a category, so one is a mixture of different tones again. So sometimes when you mix them all together, you're creating basically a neutral colour, you know, and that's why ash is considered a cool neutral. It's not considered a pigment because it's a mixture of it's a mixture of the green and the blue and the violet, and obviously parts of the green or the blue or the violet will go into the hair and others will show through a little bit more because it's not a specific tone. Like 2 is a green, it's a specific tone. 3 is a gold, it's a specific tone. 4 is a red, specific tone, you know. So all these kind of love 6-5. I love double 5-6-5. It's probably my favourite Wella colour of all time. That kind of explains a little bit, you know, a little bit. And this is why sometimes ashes are not that great on white hair. You know, that if you do a lot of ash, you know, on white hair, and if it's just a 1, you're never quite sure from the thickness or the texture or the condition of which particular part of the ash that you mix up is going to go in and which is not. So sometimes ash on its own can look a little bit drab and can look a little bit muddy on white hair or on bleached hair. So we come back to that question that we see on the page all the time. I did an ash toner and it looks quite dull, it looks quite flat, it looks quite muddy because of all the tone has gone in and neutralised it. And what do we say? Yeah, ash and violet is I have to say I think probably Salas is one of the best people I've seen using violet mahoganies, which is the 5 or the 6 or the 6 or the 5. I think it's because he works with cypriot hair, you know. Yes, it can be neutral with red, but we're just talking about pigments right now. So if you mix a base colour with a red, you're then mixing you're mixing the base colour will make your red less red because it's a base colour. So the base colour is weakening your tone, Michelle. You know, so you're mixing some base color, which is the three colors together to create a brown, and then you mix that brown with the red, and you get a brown red. Yeah, which makes total sense. But if we wanted to lighten the actual pigment, we're not talking about coverage, but if we wanted to lighten the actual pigment of the red, we'd look at another pigment to do that. Okay, because bases is not a color. Bases are not a color. We go back to again, what makes a base? Okay, what makes a base? A base is equal parts of red, yellow, and blue. More blue on the darker bases, more yellow on the lighter bases, and that's what makes a base color. So when you mix the three of them together, you get a brown. So when you mix those three together and you have a brown, and then you add a red into them, you get a red brown. Isn't that cool? Isn't that what it is? Isn't that cool? So that's kind of what it is. That's just the basic science of it, of the understanding of it, you know, of that kind of thing. Everybody's still on. So sometimes when you use a lot of ash on somebody who's very white hair or on a very clean bleach up, they can look a little bit heavy and they can look a little bit dull. And what do we tell them to do? We always tell them to add a little bit of primary tone in with the colour. Yes? So we always tell them that. And what's a primary colour? It's the stroke 3. So sometimes if you want to use ash on somebody who's 100% grey, it's a good idea to mix an 0-3 and a 1. So you'll get a 1-3, which means you'll get a flat neutral ash, and then your 3 will stop the ash from looking heavy. Again, so you're using a little bit of colour mixed in, and that you're tipping the balance towards a gold, and it's going to give you a little bit more of a warmth. It's just a little tip, you know what I mean? It's just a little tip, you know. So yeah, so if you're looking at mixed tones, particularly you know, if you're adding mixed tones into the hair, to be aware of the different mixed tones. You have red, you have gold, you have red, you've gold, you've violet, you've blue. You know, that blue is the bully. Blue will always take over in the bowl. It's a primary colour. So the 3 primary colours, and of the 3 primary colours, I use 8-1 in my hair. You know what I love, Lindsay? I love 8-1-3 in Illumina, 8-1-3 and 8-0 as a tint. I just think it's absolutely beautiful. It's one of my favourites. I love. It's one of my favourite tints to use. Or I use 807 and 9-1. That's one of my favourite mixes as well. It just gives you a nice sort of beige ash. So yeah, is it 807? Sorry, 807 and 9-1, which gives you like an 817 effect. So you have to remember with ash, sometimes it's good to go a little bit of a shade lighter because ash is cool in tone, so it'll always look darker. So like an 8-1 can look a bit more like a 7-1, and a 9-1 can look a bit more like an 8-1, just because of the tone in it. So what's the tones that's mixed together to make an ash in Wella? It's green, it's blue, and it's violet, you know. And what colours do, like violet will neutralise yellow, blue will neutralise orange, and green will neutralise red, you know. So they all work against you. So suddenly you have the whole colour spectrum coming together, which just started with your first 3 colours of red, yellow and blue. Okay, so that just gives you a little bit, very true, gold and ash, especially in where makes the grey a more softer tone. It will just, because again you have to remember that when you're using ash, that ash is a category. It's not a pigment. It's a mixture of pigments together, which when mixed together create a neutralizing tone, but it's not a pigment. It's not a pigment. That's why it's called a cool neutral, you know. It's called a cool neutral, you know, 50% grey. Lines my hair, has a brown edge. So I have an ash semi in my hair, and 50% grey, base 7. So it always goes at a brown edge. So the ash in your hair with the brown, what if you really look at your hair and you try to work out of that ash which is being sucked up and what a primary colour is and what you're left with, and you'll probably find that maybe what you're being left with is more of the primary tone of yellow, and that's why it has a tendency to go brown. So if you offset that with some more tone in your colour, it will neutralize out the brown. You know, you will, but all colours are made from, you know, all bases and all colours are made red, yellow and blue. So when a colour fades, it's going to fade with an essence of red, which is warm, of yellow, which is warm, and blue, okay? And the blue could have gone into the hair to deal with the underlying pigment. So all colour fades warm, yeah, because they're made with red, yellow and blue. And all colour will lighten warm because the underlying pigment of the hair is naturally warm. Yeah, it's naturally warm. So this is why colour is warm. This is the way colour is made, and so if you're making something that has yellow in it and you're making something that has red in it, when it fades, obviously that's going to come out, isn't it? Because it's part of the three colours that's made. So when the colours are breaking down, you're going to see some red or some yellow or some blue, really. Doesn't that make sense? Doesn't that sort of break down how colour works and why it works and how it is? And that's just the science of it all, really, with colour. Does that help at all? You know, does that help? The question about the red jumper was absolutely brilliant, by the way. But I think that was Salas, was it? That was an absolutely, you know, brilliant. And then when you're looking at coverage, you know, the amount of pigment that's in the tube will give you the amount of coverage. Today I use gold to neutralise white ashes and it made the champagne beautiful. Like what Salas is talking about here is a really brilliant understanding that he's adding, say, some yellow in because he's going to offset. You know, he's using a primary colour, which is a gold, to offset an ash colour, and the ash colour is made up of green, blue and violet. So by using the yellow, it will probably neutralise the violet, really, won't it? Because, like, isn't it yellow that neutralises the violet? Isn't it yellow? Yeah. So it will neutralise it, and it will let the two primary colours come above and give them a nice pastel. So it's what we call it'll beige it out, is what we call it. You know, that by using an ash, you know, sometimes on a darker base, it will the certain amount of tones that will be used will go into the hair, and you'll be left with maybe a violet or a gold, which when you see violet and gold mixed together, it tends to look like a beige, doesn't it? So this is why you'll hear the saying in hair colour that, you know, if you use an ash on a yellow, it'll beige it out because of, you know, she is serious tonight. Yeah, she's it's midweek, and you know, this is a night off for her, you know. She's midweek, but I mean, if we're going into lockdown and people are going to be here, we could be doing a good few of these bite size, because it looks like people are very into these. I mean, there was so many people interested in these questions this morning, you know, but that I promised the kids I wouldn't stay on too long, and I'm already on too long. But you know, that if you're looking at coverage, you know, you would have to say to yourself, Salas on a roll tonight. I was not well on Sunday. Yes, you are on a roll tonight, Salas. You are. It's nice to have an experienced master colourist on helping me. I'm getting the love hearts from downstairs. My wife's giving me the, like, you know, the max it could be on, because we're going to do these regularly and we're going to do them all the time. We're going to do them on different things, grey coverage and different types of things. Primary, touch. So would you add a primary or a touch or a secondary? Well, you have to understand that a secondary colour was made from the primary. So everything that's secondary came from the primary. You have to mix those colours together to create the secondary. So they are the primary colours. You know what I mean? So everything comes back to red, yellow and blue. Okay? And of those three colours, two of them are warm. Red and yellow. All colour fades warm. All colour lightens warm. It's just science, I'm afraid, okay? It's just science. And Salas, I'm glad you're feeling a little bit better, you know. But the thing to remember that the dye molecule that they put into a tube of colour it has a bit more blue if it's darker and a bit more yellow if it's lighter, yeah. So I would say off the top of my head that you wouldn't expect 100% coverage on anything above a level 8, because there wouldn't be enough pigment in the tube to cover the grey. That means that there would be more yellow. You know, there would be a little bit more, there would be a lot more yellow, a little bit less red, and a little bit less blue. So it wouldn't cover as well as the darker tubes, which would have a lot more blue in it. So when you see somebody using a toner and they're putting a drop of 2O in with it, what are they doing? Okay, because now you've all listened to what I've said. So what is that 2O actually doing by putting a drop of that in? What you think is the primary tone that's in a 2O? What would you say is the maximum amount of the primary colour that's used in 2O? What would you say that is? Now, there's only 3 primary colours. So it can either be blue, yellow or red. So which one of those 3 would you say is the blue for Susie? Blue for Susie. Faded gold. Staying with lilac. So you would know that why colours fade the way they do. When people say, oh, it went yellow. So that it makes sense, doesn't it? Because the primary tone is yellow, isn't it? So the other 2 tones were neutralised by the hair. So when someone says, oh, faded yellow. So blue. Okay, blue. So everybody, this is great. So you've all learnt this now. So you understand, okay? So you're obviously darkening with blue. So when someone says to you, put a drop of 2O in, they're basically using the 2O like a dye molecule of blue, you know, but it has the depth of molecule of 2O, which makes it drop down, and then that blue neutralizes. Yes, and that's how you get a grey. Yeah, that's so. Does all that help? Yeah, because blue is the bully. Yeah, something we'll go back over constantly, because the more you get an understanding of this, yeah, you know, the more you get an understanding of this, the less surprises you will get. And the more, hiya Mary, how are you? Ciao Mary, I'm thinking about Italy tonight. I know there's a few problems. It's great to see you on. Ciao Mary, great to see you on. Thanks for reaching out. This is the lovely Mary from Geneva, who's just a wonderful lady. Great to see you on, Mary. We're having a deep one here, just a little deep one here. So again, guys, what's the 3 primary colours? Red, yellow and blue. And there will be more blue on the darker, and there will be more blue on the lighter. So obviously at a level 8, you know, you'll have more yellow, red and blue down here. So you're not, without that much, but it's not going to cover as well, is it? It's not going to cover as well. Okay, so this is when you need to add so that's your depth. That's how it works. And this is why those 3 colours mixed together need a tone with them, so that you can add an extra tone to them, so you're creating the depth and the tone. Does that help? Does that have an understanding? I think you're all brilliant there. So for me, if people are looking for the maximum amount of coverage, anything above an 8.0 is not going to cover 100%, unless you use something that has a lot of pigment in it, like say a 903 and a 91, and then you have like literally the amount of pigment you use is going to give you the coverage rather than the actual base, the actual depth. So you're using a lot of tone, you're using a lot of pigment. Do you understand? So if I'm looking to get coverage at a level 9, I will be looking at using like a 903 and a 91 to get the maximum amount of pigment in that. And then pigment is what will give me the coverage rather than the tone. You understand what I mean? But a 10.0 is a 10 level doesn't have enough pigment to cover grey. All it's going to do is tone. Basically a 9 with blend. So you'll often see people on the page saying, yeah, I used double 9.0 today and it just was hollow. It was see-through. It didn't take. Because at that level, okay, there's not enough pigment in it, is there? There's not enough blue in it. There's not enough pigment in it for it to take on the hair, is there? Really? Do you know what I mean? So 901's beautiful colour, Paula. 901. I love 903. I love 91 and 903 because you're then are starting to understand what a base colour is and what a pigment is and what they do between. I love 901 as a toner as well, because you know the O in 901, the O has a little bit of red, a little bit of yellow, a little bit of blue, and then it has a little bit of 1 in it, and the 1 in it has a little bit of green, a little bit of blue and a little bit of violet. So when you put them all together, you get a balance, you know, of sort of what those three together do to make a base, and then the one on top of it, which is a category as well. Hiya, Roberto. How are you, sir? How are you? My lovely, well Italian team. You know, adding 8-7 to my 9s gives me the backup I need if I need something. Now, what Susie has said there has really, like, if you break that down in scientific terms, like, that's a smart move. So let's break that down in scientific moves. So a level 7 is a category. It's not a pigment. Okay, so it's a category. So it's all the worms on the other side. Okay, so to make that brunette, it's all the worms on the other side of the wheel. You know, it's all the primers mixed together. So it has quite a lot of pigment in it to make a 7. And then she's going down a level depth, which means that the level 8 has that little bit more pigment on a level 8 than a level 7. Yes. So it's really interesting. It's really amazing to because I can nearly feel you guys sucking this up. This is really we're on to something here, aren't we? I feel we're on to something here. So that this gives you an understanding of why those things work, why the stroke 7s cover so well, because the stroke 7s have got 3 or 4 pigments in them, which means they obviously are going to take better on white hair because they have a little bit more pigment in it. They have a little bit more red, a little bit more yellow, a little bit more orange, you know. I have to interact, Lisa. I would hate to be sitting here lecturing. I love the best part of lives for me is the audience being with me. It's really enjoyable. This is really enjoyable. I'm really enjoying my time with you guys, and you know that I'm not out to tell you you're wrong or what you're doing is wrong. I'm just telling you about the science, and then you can try and put it together. But I get days where things don't cover that well. I get days where it battles. I get days where front hairlines don't cover very well. I get days where, you know, there's so much stuff on their hair. There's so much buildup of product on their hair. There's so much that just trying to get through the product can be a problem. You know, there's so much hairspray and mousse and you know without a pre-pig. So Lindsay there has answered an even better question, that 7 fills well without a pre-pig. So why does 7 fill well without a pre-pig? Because if it was a yellow, it would be neutralized. It would be neutralized up quite quickly, you know, if it was just one pigment. But because it's all of the pigments together to make a 7, that if one gets neutralized, there's still other pigments there. But that's why sometimes a 7 can look mauve. Sometimes I say, oh, I used a 9-3 or I used a 9-7 and it looked a bit pinky, because it's made up of violet, it's made up of red, it's made up of yellow. So if the hair eats through the 2 primary colours, so what's the red going to do? What's going to happen when it goes in the hair? So let's really think about this one. Well, it's going to eat the 2 primary colours first, isn't it? So what's the 2 primary colours in that mix? It's red and yellow. They're the 2 primary colours, aren't they? Red and yellow. So they're the 2 gone into the hair first. And then what does that leave you? It leaves you with the violet right in the end of it. You know, the yellow and the violet right in the end of the wheel. So it can have a tendency to look a little bit mauve and pink, depending on what has been neutralised and what has been left behind for the eye to see. Okay, it's just science. It's just science. It's not really anything more than that. And sometimes it can look a little bit pinky when you're putting it on, and then once it takes, it's fine. It's beige, and it beiges out, and it's beautiful. It's never anything to worry about. Okay, it's not the world conspiring against you. It's just usually you have to think of what's the 3 primary colours, and they're red, they're yellow, and they're blue, and then you make the other colours off the back of those colours. Isn't that correct? Isn't that's enough, you know? And that if something doesn't cover the lighter, okay, so you have people who are like and I'll finish on this one. You have people on the page going, oh, like, how do I get rid of the warmth? How do I get rid of this? How do I get rid of of the warmth? And, you know, you can't get rid of warmth because we've just broken it down that the colour is made up of red, it's made up of yellow, and it's made up of blue. So they obviously can't get rid. So what you can do is you can control the warmth. Okay, you can control the warmth. You can subdue the warmth, but you can't get rid of the warmth. Okay, and when you explain that to a client, they get it, they understand. Okay, but if we don't understand, then the client won't understand. You know, and the clients who don't want to understand, well, you don't really want them in your chair anyway, because they're just going to blame you when it doesn't work out. And they go, oh, I did a grey, and 2 weeks later, look at it, it's kind of brown, or it's kind of violet, or it's kind of pink, or it's kind of yellow, because they don't understand. They don't want to understand, and you know, and they'll make you look bad, and then you'll lose clients over them, and you know, all that type of stuff. So you know, you have to ask yourself, what is the level of warmth that I can and my clients can acceptably live with, okay? And then you can base that on their skin tone, you know? So to a certain extent, say for me in Ireland, a lot of us have very pink skin, so beige is like 1-3s and stuff like that. They are the best, you know, ways of controlling. Sometimes you're better to try and work with the warmth rather than try and neutralise it, because you will only, hiya Brittany, how are you babes, good to see you, you will only neutralise it for a little while. But if you actually work with it and mask it and try to use it in your favour, well then it will fade with a little bit more authenticity, you know. So if you try to just kill, you know, a certain level of warmth, you know, with a stroke 1 or a stroke 1.8, you know that those colours will fade back. How you doing, Galini? Good to see you, sir. I hope you're okay. You know, and clients, if you say to a client you really need some warmth, and I don't particularly like ashing anybody above 35, 40, 50. I do feel they need to have warmth in their skin to make them look young and youthful like their hair did when they were younger, you know. I will post the colour wheel. I will post some notes. This is just the beginning, because I'm going to do a series of these, Rachel, you know. So this will be an announcement, and you'll be able to watch it back over, you know. But that if you try to say to yourself, what's the acceptable amount of warmth that I can work with, you know, and sometimes like an 871 will fade better and will mask a warmer colour better than you trying to just use an 8-1. And then when the 1 washes off it, you're left with the underlying pigment. You know what I mean? You're left with the underlying pigment. But if you'd used a 7-1, well, the brunette tone would have gone in as well. So the hair colour would last longer, you know? So you have to think about what a depth is, what it's made up of, and why you understand that a depth is not a tone, okay? A base is not a colour. It's a mixture of the 3 primary colours put together to create a brown. And when that hits white hair, depending on the type of hair it is, different parts of that pigment are going to go into the hair a little bit more than other parts of that pigment, and you're going to be left behind with a reflection of those other colours. So you're leaving it to the 4 winds of how it turns out. Sometimes it could be hollow, sometimes it could be dark, sometimes it could be warm. God knows, okay? So you need to add some tone in with that colour. So that's why you have your depth, your base colour, and that's why you have your tone, the target shade, you know? Okay, the target shade. You know, I talk about reflection of light to a lot of clients there, Susie. I'm talking, you know, we just give it a nice reflection of light, and I will say that, you know, there's nothing more expensive than a proper beige warm colour. I said there's nothing more. If you think about a Gucci bag, if you think about a Chanel beige, you know what I mean. They don't make ash bags. Do you know what I mean? You know, you think about Chanel, you think about Gucci's browns. You know, you want a hair colour that's expensive looking. You know what I mean? I want to be a hair splitter. Thank you, Mama Done. Yes, all the kids are downstairs, and they're like Zulu. I'm going to get to the door. So I was thinking for the next one, you know, if your client wants a blonde tint and she's dark naturally, how's the best way to approach this? But I'm going to spend the next day or two digesting this, because ash bags, yeah, that's gas. But you know, like a young kid can wear an ash, but an older person can't, you know. So I hope this is what was of help tonight. It's very good to understand that a base colour is not a colour. It's three primary colours mixed together to make a base colour, and then you add your colour to that, yeah? And then that creates the colour. And then the colours that you're adding to that, what are they made up of, and how are they going to react to the hair? And that's why all colour fades, warm, because colour's made out of red, it's made out of yellow, and it's made out of blue. Obviously, that's what's going to happen, isn't it? You know, so, you know, it's not something to think that, oh God, the whole world has to think about. That sounds great. It sounds great. Yeah, a lot of people ask for blondes, and I'll talk to you about how I would approach maybe that, you know, how I would see it and how I would approach it. But I might get some eureka ideas. We're going to be doing these bite-sized lives a couple of times a week, I think, particularly as I'm in lockdown and I have time, and I love to Galini agrees. He loves the warmer tones. I love like your Meg Ryan sort of colours on certain types of skin tones. I just think they're really good, and the beige ashes. And again, don't be afraid to look through fashion magazines and look at people on the catwalks. You won't see anybody with those ash blondes, you know. And you don't have to get too lost in the science. You just have to understand that if a colour's made of red and it's made of yellow and it's made of blue, that mixed together is what creates a base colour, and then you need to add a colour to that to create the tone. And the colours you choose are the reasons colour turn out that way, you know. And it's usually just an easy, you know. And you know, okay, you look forward to the next one. Great. I'm glad that this was of help. I was on longer than I thought. I was on for a full hour, but there we go. So thank you so much for joining me tonight. If you liked the Bite Size Live, then comment down below that you liked it, and we'll come back with some really, really good subjects, because there's so much to talk about, like red tints and, you know, and blonde tints. There's so much in different volumes of peroxide, and there's so much that we can deal with here that could be so interesting. But let's just start off with the basics, okay? How do you make a base colour? You make it with a mixture of yellow, with a mixture of red, and with a mixture of blue. That's how you make it, okay? Okay. Really lovely to talk to you all tonight. Keep well, support each other, share each other's wins, help each other to get better, and I'm glad I was of service of you tonight. Okay, talk to you soon. I'll see you in the next couple of days for the next Bite Size Lives, and don't forget about Sunday service. And we have, I'm going to post, we have some amazing educators on Instagram over the next couple of weeks, and we also have a new profile picture coming up. There's a new profile picture for the Wella family, which at 34,000 I'm going to put up on the page, it's a beautiful picture, and there's a lot of people on this thread that are part of that picture. Okay, great to talk to you all, and I'll see you in the next couple of days. Take it easy. I'll see you on the page. Thanks a million. Bye.